So what we are doing right now, we are building a podcast called as Build with Buddies, and the idea is to celebrate and encourage people to build things, and
Yep.
especially when we are in the times that we are, right, where
Yep.
everything is changing. The world is absolutely recalibrating itself. The people who will create a lot of opportunity for themselves is people who build, right? And I have
Yep.
you and me, both of us, we have surrounded ourselves with people who actually build things,
Yep.
and it's a very different world when you're around people who build versus people who are not building. It is like having a consumer mindset versus a creator mindset. And I have consciously taken a lot of decisions of surrounding myself with those kind of people. The vocabulary is different, the way these people talk is different, their priorities in life is different, everything is different. So
I think
uh,
in
the
general the whole mentality is different,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So it's like a very conscious approach of doing something,
Yeah.
and some people organically or subconsciously sort of build it. That is, I think that is called luck more than nothing anything else. But this conscious building, the idea of building, that is a very conscious attempt, and I think that is something that can be built. That attitude itself, that mentality itself, is something that can be built.
Yeah,
And
and
I think,
the whole idea here
yeah, I
is
think like
to, yeah, we are overlapping each other.
no,
This
go
is the
ahead.
first part, so that's
No,
fine. I mean, we are learning.
that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
So the whole idea is to attract people like these, like people like us, and talk with
Yep.
more interesting people and understand how you
Yep.
build, what motivates you to build, and
Yep.
all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So what are the things that we
Yeah.
build?
So
What do you think?
what are the things that I've built? From a simple point of view, I'm a bodybuilder. I wouldn't say I'm a bodybuilder, but I try to build my physique, or I try to build my fitness and stamina, that sort of thing, because I regularly go to the gym. But that is just the most plain thing. But then if you look into everything, like I think I've built my relationship with my father, consciously built it. I was, I mean, like everybody, like every man, you have a very awkward relationship with your father when you cross teams and stuff like that. And I realized that like very early on that, okay, there is something, some people are not able to do that, but me being me, I don't know, somehow I've consciously put in an effort to make sure that, we face that weird phase, and I pushed him through the weird phase with me, and we've come out of it,
Hmm.
and it's like really nice because of that. Like I think I regularly hug my dad and kiss my dad and that sort of thing. And when I say this to most of my friends, they're like, "What? How do you do that?" So I think that is because I forced myself to go through that thing. So that sort of intimacy is usually with your mothers, but I also have it with my dad.
So has it
In fact,
become
my brother
natural?
doesn't have that thing.
Okay. Has it become
Now it
natural
has
for you over
become
time?
natural.
Okay. Hmm.
Yes, now it
That's
has become
interesting.
natural. He knows that
Because
I'm gonna. He expects me to do that now these days.
nice, nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
No, so that
Interesting.
is what. So I think it's also like my mom has consciously instigated the idea of building relationships. That it is going to be like that. So that has happened with me, and it was very weird. And we also obviously we have issues with your father, right? Because uh, you are influenced by him in so many ways that you don't know his
Yeah.
sort of personality and everything like that. But and also in Indian setup. So I think with our generation, or like the next generation, things have changed. Some cases in our generation, like the sort of relationship that kids have with their fathers. I mean,
Yeah.
sons have with their fathers, because I think culturally, I think it was sort of they didn't know how to express love, or they didn't know how to
Yeah.
show that sort of thing. I think at least in my family, when I look at my cousins and all, I feel like there was a there was an issue of not knowing how to express things,
Yeah.
because I don't know what are the historical reasons. If you can add value to that, it'll be great. But yes, but I think so. So yeah, it's consciously building relationships, and obviously, like as an entrepreneur, building business is something. And even when I started out as an agency owner, like back in Amsterdam, so I was not aware of, like, oh, there is something called this conscious building. So I was just trying to get my next client, or like finish my next project, or like build my next invoice, or whatever it is. So
Mm.
it was like next, 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 next. So the sort of vision started happening only like a couple of years ago. Like, okay, this is what I want. I mean, subconsciously, I knew, okay, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do multiple businesses and that sort of thing. But that conscious building, that idea of conscious building, I think you also have a lot of. I think it's also you also have a lot of influence on that. The conversations that we have been having, and that's when I think I've seriously started about this concept of building, where I can, and I've been linking everything in life to this whole idea of building. Let it be relationship, business, body, lifestyle. No, everything in
Yeah.
general. And I think, uh, so I don't know what is the right word, but in religions and in especially in ancient cultures, this conscious living is a that state of conscious living is very much, talked about and appreciated about. And when I'm talking about this, I also feel that, that the idea of building, that the conscious building that we're talking about, is very much intertwined or interconnected with the idea of concept, the conscious living. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think we think a lot alike. That's the reason we have so many conversations, deep conversations about
Yeah,
building and
yeah,
creating stuff, right? So
yeah,
for me also, uh, for some reason, since I was a child, uh, it was always about building, right? I read this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, in which he had this idea
mm,
of you should be building assets, right? Which stuck with me.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
everything I did, right? So even during my agency business, or agency days when I was building the agency, I always had this question: okay, I am running these campaigns for clients, but what am I really building, right? And so my
mm,
focus started shifting to something where I can build an asset, because the only asset I had was the agency itself, which ran only
mm.
if I had given it some um, time and attention.
Water,
But
basically. Yeah, time
yeah,
is.
right. But that did not really feel like building until I kind of, over time, I got introduced to this book called as Work the Systems, right, by Sam
Mm-hmm,
Carpenter, in which he talks about
mm-hmm,
how do you build a company, or how do you build systems around yourself that become uh, the company that you are trying to run, and how to make the most of your time, where how to put yourself in activities that are more related to building things and not related to just doing things, right? Which is a very different mindset. That is when it shifted for me.
exactly,
And
exactly.
so what I have been doing lately is working a lot on just two things, building two things, right? One is building systems, and the other is building narratives. Um
Yeah,
and what we are really building, what I feel, is we are building a life, right? And the building
yeah,
blocks of our life fundamentally are systems and narratives. Now everything you build
yeah,
comes under these things, whether you're building a company, relationships, whether you're building your body, right, whether you're building your habits, your spirituality, right? Everything that you're trying to build comes or is made up of these two things. What are the systems you're building in order to achieve that goal, and what are the narratives that are supporting that system in order to achieve the goal? And both are needed, and that is those are the two fundamental building blocks for anything that you are building. And
yeah.
what I
Also,
feel
just
fundamentally, yeah, yeah,
before we dive into this thing, I don't think I have discussed this particular thing. So the idea of agency that you're talking about, like the agency that you were running.
Yeah.
So did you like wrap it up because you figured out that there was no building happening, or what was that?
Yeah, that was a major frustration I had with an agency business, which was it did not feel like anything tangible was getting built. Of course, I did have a system which helped clients achieve some results,
Mm,
but it for some reason I always felt that as soon as I'm out of this whole day-to-day activities, the system crumbles and it does not work,
mm,
which is not the kind of thing
mm,
I have always been fascinated about. And anyways, like I used to sell over a shop and I used to sell products, and selling products
mm,
was something I always loved instead of selling services. That is something that is very deeply connected with the way I look at the world
mm,
in terms of products or having
mm,
that product mindset. As an agency, it did not
mm,
feel that I'm building any kind of product. So,
mm,
although after agency life, I built Magic Leaf, which is a food brand, which is a product brand,
mm,
and when I'm
mm,
actually doing this, and the perspective that I am gaining by building a product brand, I have now
mm.
started gaining a very different perspective on how to build a service company, which I did not have before, right? Which is you can build a
Like,
service
what do you think?
company
What do you think is the major learning
shift.
that you've in terms of
Yeah. So
yeah.
usually what happens in a service business when you're building it is you are trying to be everything to everybody. That's a big mistake. Now, what happens when you're trying to be everything to everybody is you are not focused on a single problem. You're not focused on the kind of skill sets that you need to solve those problems, and you're not focused on the people who you're trying to solve the problem for. Every single client
Mm,
has a combination of these three different things, and every single time you have to start from scratch. The difference
mm,
between that and a product business is a product business compounds. Your efforts in a product business compounds. Once I figure out that this is the product that is working in this market, I know how to scale it. So there is a logical progression to the next
So,
level.
so in
Okay.
terms of scalability,
Yeah,
so you think that you're not solving the same problem again and again.
that's right.
But in an agency sort of service business, the same stuff appears in another season in another form, but the same client.
Yeah. So
Okay.
every single time there's a new problem in an agency business, or at least the way I used to run it, and now I know that I used to run it not
Mm,
in the right way, in the wrong way, right? If I were
yeah.
to do it again, of course I'll use this entire mindset of building a product to a service business where you have to say no to a lot of people, and you have to make sure you build
Mm,
something that is scalable and that can be productized. Nowadays they call
mm,
it productized services, if you know it, right?
mm,
Which is a better way to
mm,
build
mhm.
a service business compared to being everything to everybody. That's not a great idea. So that's what I learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I think coming back to that saying no to a lot of things, I think that is the crux of, the if you're able to sort of maintain quality and focus on limited number of projects where you can like have a see, I'm talking from a small agency perspective, okay?
Mhm.
Instead of doing like a lot of labor, if you are truly focused on adding a lot of value, uh, where you sort of can bring in that irreplaceable value. I'm not saying that nobody else in the world can do it,
Also, what I
but
don't like about a
only
service
some people
business,
should be able to do it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
what I also don't like about a service business is the idea of creating proposals for every single client, right? I wouldn't like to be in a
Hmm.
business where I have to always keep creating proposals because it's extremely time consuming. It's exhausting. It's
Do
just
you
not
do
for me.
that? So
Not
you
anymore.
used to do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. In my case, only for like big projects that I know that like okay, it's gonna at least stay there for like 3, 4, 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I look into the proposal. Otherwise,
No, I
I have
never
my
took any
co-founder,
project below
CFO.
6 months, for that matter. Like if a project
Mm.
was below 6 months, I did not even accept it. But
Mm.
when a project is for 6 months, you actually need to create a proposal, right? I mean, it is justified because today, as a
No,
product
I get
company,
that.
when I'm working with an agency, so by the way, we are working with a productized design service. Okay. For them, there was no proposal. They just told me this is the website, these are the pricing. The pricing was public on the website. We said, okay, done. Like, I love this. I don't need a proposal from you. I just know that you have unlimited design options, one design at a time. for the month and you have a subscription, right? I love that. But then there is another agency which is into copywriting, and they had to give me a proposal for that, right? Um and I expected, because when you're not really clear about what the deliverable is, then I need to know what I'm paying for. And so that is why proposals are
Exactly.
expected by clients, which I understand. But I wouldn't build a business where I need a proposal, is what I'm trying to say. That's not something that really
Mm.
works with me,
So
because then
so
you're not
so
building,
basically,
is what I feel.
no,
Of
I
course,
have a
like you
different take on
can,
that
for
thing. Like,
I would say, if you are using in the initial days, if you're doing proposals just to crack what is really working with the clients, which can be scaled later and standardized and put up publicly on the website, then I would like to do that kind of a business. I would like a business where my pricing is publicly available on the website. In short, yeah.
no, I mean, I get that thing. So ideally, there are some self-services that you can do for that. So, for example, like say social media, this is the package, this is the package, this is the package, or
Yeah.
branding. These are the deliverables and that sort of thing. That works. But most of the times, the clients that I sort of work with, they come in with like a
Strategy.
custom. Yeah, they're in a different phase, they're in a different size of organization, the billing capability is completely different, and what they expect out of us is also some sort of custom combination of services.
Yeah,
So
but
that
that's
is,
what.
and most of the things, and I don't, so I don't take everything. I mean, I don't do everything for everybody. So we try to sort of tend to focus on what we are best at, that is like building a brand. So like coming up with the whole communication strategy, the positioning, the branding, and giving that world class brand identity, that sort of thing. So there, it's sort of, so I just tend to do that. If there is any growth hacking or like growth marketing or something, we don't take it up. So even in that, you have like a lot of customization that is happening. So I don't think it is possible for, in a way, like it's not possible for us to operate saying that this is a standard. And the other thing that comes is, because the clients are from different parts of the world, the billing amount also
Yeah.
completely changes. And if I
Yeah.
publish it saying that this is what it is, I think that standardization, I get it, and that's also something that is limiting us as a growth, like as an agency, But
Yeah.
what I've
So
realized is that if you do that, but with a custom high value addition focus, then I think you don't have to do a lot of projects, but you can still decently run the agency.
yeah, but I'm not sure. So for me, I think if I have to do the strategy work, right, I would rather use that energy for coming up with strategy for building my business. Okay. And whatever
100%,
I'm building
100%,
is something that is much more systemized, right? Something that can work without
100%,
me being
100%.
there. The whole point is,
Yeah,
the whole point of building is to be at a point where you don't need to work anymore, right? That's the whole, like, one of the ultimate goals of being able to build. And after that, you build because you want to
yeah,
build, not because you have to build, right? So uh,
yeah.
that is where this whole idea comes from, like, because see, I have spent doing strategy for, like, in the last 15 years I have done strategy for almost 100 brands so far, right?
Mm, mm,
um, am I building an asset by doing it? No. Of course, I got a lot of practice doing it. I learned what is working. I learned what is not working and stuff. But
mm,
ultimately, if I do that same strategy, like, it's about eating your own dog food, right? Can I do the same
mm.
whole strategy for myself, in depth for a single brand, own that asset, own that brand, and make something interesting out of it? And it's much more challenging, trust me, like, building it, because you are in the decision making seat, and there is the whole accountability is in your shoulders, and there is nobody telling you, if you're going to succeed or fail. And the level of learning you get by doing strategy for your own brand, where you are accountable for your decisions, is an extremely, like, it's an entirely different ball game. You have almost 100 different choices every single time you're making a decision, right? which is uh, which is a different game, and I would rather play that, uh, than doing
Mm.
strategy for 100 different brands. Although that's a great way to start
No,
learning how to do strategy in the initial days.
yeah, I get that thing. So I think like obviously you are way ahead of me in terms of career and stuff like that. But what I've realized, I always used to think that, like, but for the first time, the last holiday that I took, I think I mentioned it to you already. I did not work at all, and
Yeah.
for 2 weeks, I think the team took care of everything. The client coordination and everything was happening perfectly. So I think if you're able to build a system, and if you're able to bring right people onto the team who hold themselves responsible, and I think people became like extra conscious when I was away because that he's not there, so we have to step up, sort of thing,
Yeah.
and everything went smooth. So that gave me a lot of hope, and that was just a test dose. That was like a litmus test that I was sort of doing.
Yeah.
Is it gonna happen or is it not gonna happen? And I could risk 2 weeks, and I think it turned out like really positive. So that gives me a lot of
Yeah.
hope in terms of like actually scaling the agency. And I think it's investing in the right people who understands how these things work. Now the only concern that I have is that so the division of attention, which is like so anti-building.
What do you
So
mean?
that division of focus. So I have say 10 to 15 clients that I work on a regular basis, and in that my a piece of my brain goes into this, a piece of my brain goes into that, a piece of my
Yeah.
brain goes into that. Sometimes it's creative, sometimes it's operational. So there's a division of attention that is happening, and when you're doing it for like 3 or 4 years, you feel like there's a big question mark, like, okay, where did it go and what happened, that sort of stuff. See,
Yeah.
like holistically, all of these is scaling your agency. You're hiring more people, you're becoming better, bigger, you're getting more money, all those things happen. But like from a building point of view, when you think about it, like, it's broken away and it's fragmented.
Yeah.
So which I feel is like very anti-building. And that is the only reason why I was like, okay, if I am putting all these, I wouldn't say effort, all these brain power into different projects, what if I compile it and focus on one thing? That is a question that I've been asking myself.
So the
And
question, another way of asking,
that is where the tendency of building your own brand is coming into me. It's nothing
I
else.
think that's the story of every agency owner. I'm telling you, right?
Okay.
Because that was exactly the reason I got out of it, because it's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting to just keep building uh, for other people without seeing whatever you build the light of the day, right? Most of the times.
Hmm.
Uh, and even if you see the light of the day, it's like you're just doing it for pennies in a way, because what you're actually building is an asset for somebody. And so the
Hmm.
question, a better question there, or the deeper question that comes in that situation is, what am I really building? Am I building an
Hmm.
agency? Am I building somebody else's brand? Or am I building a system that helps people build a brand? What exactly am I building?
Hmm.
And every single time I have
Hmm.
found myself in that situation or that question, whenever I feel extremely demotivated, which is, okay, what am I really building here? Because it's only demotivating when you see that your efforts are not seeing any results, or there is no progress to your efforts, right? uh, and in
Hmm.
those moments, if you ask this question to yourself, okay, what am I really building? Am I building a company? Am I building a team here? Am I building a product here? Am I building a system that delivers the results, or am I building other people's
That
brands,
I think that
right?
that is a deeper question that every agency owner should ask.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so. I feel so. Yeah.
So even if in the future, if I ever get into an agency business, I know that I'm not going to
Mm.
build, uh, my perspective is not going to be about building other people's brands. It's going to be about building a system
Mm.
that builds brands, because that is
Mm.
much more compounding. That's a compounding vehicle, right? It is a much
Agreed.
more high value asset for me compared to building, because
Yeah.
see, my your attention goes to the thing that you're trying to build, right?
Mm.
All your energy, your
Mm.
awareness, your attention, your mental power goes to that thing which you're trying to build. If mentally you are thinking that you're trying to build other people's brands, then all your energy will go into figuring out just building that brand for the client that you're building. That's it, right? But that
Mm.
does not
Yeah,
mean you will
exactly.
end up building a system that builds brands, right?
Exactly.
Now that is
But
exactly the
so
whole.
the thing is that you may achieve your goal of building some brand, which we have done
Yeah,
successfully, but you won't build that system that can like compound. That is very true. No, that
exactly.
makes a lot of sense. And I think that is the same conscious idea of building that I was talking about before also. Like, where
Yeah,
you water it grows. Like the plant that you water basically grows. So that sort of detached, coming out of it and thinking, having a look back at it is required. Like, so I think for that is one major reason why we need to discuss about all these systems and building and everything like that.
yeah,
That
and that
people
is
can have a new perspective.
exactly, and that is why this question becomes extremely important. What are you really building, right? I talk
Yeah.
about this with my co-founders also quite often, and the
Yeah.
one thing that I keep repeating with them is we are building a system. We are not manufacturing stevia, or we are not just supplying certain kind of food products to certain companies. We are building a system that is capable of doing those things. So tomorrow you just bring in some other ingredient and the system still works, right? uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what our focus should be on as founders, right? And the other is
So okay.
because we are working with people, building narratives is also equally important. And so uh, my personal time as a founder mostly goes in just to these two things. We build a system and we build narratives. Now whether it is a brand, it is made of these two things, or a team or a product, everything has these two things made up of, when you're building them.
This is like a deeper understanding of building, and I think everybody should be aware about like the sort of deep uh, understanding of building exactly. But my question is, do you think people are aware about this thing around us? So when you asked me about building, I was literally saying about like how I consciously build the business, the relationship, and all those things, which is a conscious attempt, which is good. But what you talked about, like systems and narratives, is like a deeper understanding of the. So, are you aware that like people around you are? Do they know about this thing?
um it doesn't seem to me like they are, right?
Mm.
For example,
Mm.
let's take the most basic thing, building a career. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
uh, Most people are not even aware that they want to build a career. what they uh,
Yeah.
what they are focusing on is I'm doing my job. That is what they are focusing on. They are not focusing on I want to build my
Mm.
career, right? The
Yeah.
entire paradigm of thinking is limited to I'm doing my job. So I'm helping a friend
Mm.
learn UI UX, okay? And he just made a landing page, and on the logo it was just like a JPEG image with black background on the with the logo. I'm like, this is looking very patchy, very bad. You just need to remove the black background, have only the logo, have a transparent logo, create a
Mm.
PNG image.
Mm.
And the question he's asking me is this the job of a UI UX designer? And I was pissed. I was
Mm.
like, dude, don't even,
Mm.
if you really want me to teach you, don't ask me such stupid questions. Just do what I say. And I told him, see, dude,
Mm.
your success depends on successfully building the project and then learning whatever you need
Mm.
to, you know, build that project
Yeah.
until the end of it, right?
Exactly.
If you are going to ask, is this
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
job? Then good luck, man. You're going to be fucked for life, right? And that is the thing.
Yeah.
Like today, if you are going to build a career, what you need to really do is build projects, right? And to build that project, whatever the skill you need, you have to learn it, right? And this whole idea of is this my job,
Mm.
dude, like if you're thinking like that, and if you find yourself thinking like that, take me in writing, in next 3 years you're gone. Good luck with finding another job.
No,
Because if you are not able to
I get
build
that.
projects and you just think that your skills and your job title is what you are, then good luck. You'll see what will happen.
No, so that's sort of constancy. I think building a career, even for people who are not entrepreneurs, but I think there is this entrepreneurial mentality that is
Yeah.
must, that you sort of like, when I say entrepreneurial mentality, the willingness to do anything that is required to get the stuff done right,
Yeah.
and with that sort of focus and that ability to take risks and look for like new ways and meanings and that sort of thing. So even if you are in a 9 to 5 job, I feel even if you are, that sort of mentality is very important, and that mentality adds a lot of value to any organization. So I feel like somebody who has that mentality and lower skills can like reach skills, as for example, you take a designer, and if he has that sort of, it's very hard to find designers with this combination because they're mostly artistic and that sort of thing. But then just imagine a combination of a designer having this thing working for you. That's like, oh my god,
Whoa.
that'll be heaven
I
for me
mean,
personally.
exactly. I mean, I think designer as a as a skill itself, especially a designer who really is a builder and not just doing his job,
Yeah,
is a very powerful
yeah,
person. I think he's a designer is one of the most
exactly.
powerful people, like kind of
His work is
job.
also very powerful. His
Exactly.
or her work is also very powerful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So, in fact, something just clicked
the
with me. We were talking about consumer mindset versus
yeah,
a creator mindset, right? And I'll tell you a very clear difference
yeah,
between how, so people who are saying, I'm just doing my job are actually working from a consumer mindset. And I'll tell you why. And people who are saying, people who are actually getting things done are working from a creator mindset. So, a consumer mindset guy
mm,
or a person or a girl or whatever is thinking, what is the action I need to take? And they will take that action.
mm,
And that is why in marketing, call
mm.
to actions work so well.
What is basically asked
Yeah.
to them.
And that is why in marketing, call to actions work so well, because as a consumer, I'm
Mm.
always looking at, okay, what action am I supposed to take? That's all. Consumers
And
don't think about
psychologically, it always works.
it. Always works.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that is why it's so
yeah,
easy to, for call to actions to be so effective, even if it is as simple as buy now, right? Because consumers
shop now.
have this
Yeah,
orientation, action orientation, right? Okay, what am I asked to
yeah,
do? And I will do it
yeah,
because I'm doing my
yeah,
job, right? But what does a creator think? A
yeah,
creator thinks very simply, what is the job that needs to be done? Don't tell me how to do it, I'll figure it out.
mm,
But what do I
mm,
need to do? What job needs to be done? So there is an action orientation, and the other is goal orientation, right? A creator is always
mm,
oriented towards the goal. That person does not care
mm,
if the person has a skill. If I, as a creator, if I have a skill, if I don't have a skill, I don't mind, like I don't care. What I care about, this is the goal I want to achieve, these are the skills I
mm,
have, these are skills I need and I don't have, I'll figure it out, I'll learn it, and I'll reach the goal. That's how a creator thinks, right? But as a
mm,
consumer, the way I
mm,
think is, okay, I was told to take this action, I took this action, my job is done, I don't care what the result is,
mm,
right? So that is the
mm,
whole fundamental difference between when you are asking, right, like, are people even aware if they want to build something consciously? The problem is that's not even the part of their paradigm. I mean,
exactly,
it's a
exactly.
very different level of different kind of different world of thinking, a different universe of
Yeah,
thinking,
I
right?
think it creates a big difference, right? It creates a big difference because as a creator, you sort of tend to hang out, or you like hanging out with creators. Let it
Yeah,
be anybody. Let it be
yeah,
like, let it be any artist, musician, whoever it is. But I don't think it is what they do. It is the mindset that they sort of bring in, like this conscious building, or this consumerism that is like
yeah.
inside them,
even
within
even
them.
during my days of filmmaking, right? What I
Mm,
love about filmmaking, and the reason you see so many people get into the industry and stay in the industry, or miss the industry, is because in the film industry, the output is very clear. The goal is very clear. I need to make a movie that engages people.
mm,
That's a common narrative everybody
mm,
agrees with. Okay. And if you
mm,
look at the level of hard work that filmmakers do, and everybody on the set
mm.
that does, you will go crazy. You will feel that is it is almost labor abuse. That is and you don't ask people to do it. People are willingly working extremely hard to make a movie, and you can't imagine the level of hard work that goes into making a movie. If people work that hard in any other industry, they'll make 100 times more money, but people still make films, right? It is because uh, everybody who is there on the set most of the times is very goal oriented. They know that this scene needs to be shot, and I need to do whatever it takes to get this scene, like get the shot right. And you will never, like, it's, I have not seen the kind of dedication and the proactiveness and everything that you see on a film set in an office, in a team, right? You won't find that level of
No,
energy.
it's the energy is completely different. The energy is completely different.
Yeah,
I totally get that thing. I mean, I've been part of short films, but not like big film projects by myself. But then when we did the art festival, art tech design festival, Utopian Dystopian Kochi, most of the people that we worked with from the film industry, let it be photographers, dancers, curators, artists, everybody, and they're like, I'm ready to die for this thing, and most of
yeah,
them are like, we're volunteering. We were not even
exactly.
paying, maybe like 10K or something like that a month, because we didn't have money. If that's why. So, but that sort of commitment that made me so question me my morals. Like, I'm so used to, uh, because I'm a service businessman. I
Yeah,
provide my service for money,
yeah,
and but because I was as a director of marketing and communication, and it was like a friend's project that I was doing with my best friend, so it was not an issue. But then I was like, why would somebody randomly like spend 3 4 months doing this thing? Because I think it's so that is also why I believe, so I have a lot of respect for my friend Nisham, who was the director of the art festival. And so if you have, that's why I believe like these movie directors also have, like, are one of the fascinating human beings, because they have this capacity to constantly motivate, pull this crew of say 120, 150, 200, whatever people it is, on a regular basis, and people are ready to like push to
yeah.
any extent for this his vision to be,
Because
come
everybody's
to
a
life
creator on the
basically.
set. Like, a film set is a perfect example of creators coming together to build something meaningful, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is the energy you get when you bring creators together. But in an office, I see there is like hardly, there is a
It's
rule
a
of
herd
square, I guess.
mentality. It's a herd
Yeah, yeah.
mentality.
Like, out of 10 you will see
Yeah.
two people who are creator, have a creator mindset, and the other eight are just have a consumer mindset. It's like, okay, tell me what job needs to be done, and I'll get it done, right? It's not
Hmm.
really, okay, tell me what goal needs to be achieved and I'll achieve it. That's very rare.
You know what actually pisses me off? What actually pisses me off, that the people who I know that have this creative mentality, choosing this consumer mentality, just
Yeah,
that they can get this thing done and finished, dusted,
yeah, yeah,
that actually pisses me off. And
yeah.
when I think about it, I can particularly think of like somebody that whom I work with. I get pissed when he does that. I mean, he does that regularly
But you
because
will see,
he's
you
like
will also observe that the same
lazy, laid
person,
back, that sort of thing.
exactly, you'll also observe that the same person might not be creating in his life either, or might not be building something meaningful in his, because see, what I have seen is, if you have a building mindset, and
Yeah.
if you have that
Yeah.
builder mentality inside a company, you also have the same mentality for in the rest of your life. You're building something out of your work as well. Maybe you are kind of posting on
Mm.
LinkedIn, you're writing something, right? Or you're
Yeah.
building a passion project, or you're doing some kind of thing for your community or something like that. But people who build,
Yeah.
they build everywhere. They don't just build in their work, they build in
No,
their
I know.
life also,
I know. I
right?
know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but this particular person that I'm talking about, I think he is in that phase of like, he's very close to me, and he's been working with me for like few years now. So I consciously tell him, this is not what you are. You are like more. You're more, because he's like extremely talented as an artist,
yeah,
as a
you know what is a
whatever it
good
is
way, you know what is a
in terms of
better way
skills.
to get people like these who have a untapped potential but they are not able to build something, is to
Mm.
not get them to build something within your company, but tell them, okay, do whatever you can here, but outside of work try to do a project, that is completely
No,
under your
same thing,
control. Yeah,
same things. That is exactly what I'm doing.
yeah.
Because even that person wants to do something within the agency, there are a lot of limitations because the agency is being built. It's being built collectively, but there's a vision that I as a founder have. So that it cannot contradict that much with it.
Yeah.
But then, and I don't think he that person can do way beyond like than agency, like an independent project or something like that.
Hmm.
So I've been instigating, I've been trying, but he's
So I'll
picking
give
up.
you
So
an
my question
example.
is, yeah,
I'll,
I have one question before
yeah.
you. So don't you think this idea of building, obviously, like in business families and everything, there is this conscious uh, pass on that is happening between generations, this tendency to build and all. But in the system that we are in, the school system or anything, this is like completely missing. But
It's not just missing, it's the
do you
opposite.
think, like, is there any way? Yeah, it's like you're like scared. People demotivate you when you think about any of these things. Yeah, so
Yeah.
my question is, like, is there any certain approach that you take within your, say, organization, that like you get everybody on the same boat, this mentality of building is sort of passed down?
Yeah,
What do
it's
you do?
actually I use a very specific way of doing this, right? First of all, whenever I'm
Mm,
talking with somebody, what I'm trying to look for is what are they curious or obsessed about. That
mm,
is the doorway into opening up them into building something, right? Because what I have realized is
mm,
you can't build if you're not obsessed or if you're not curious, right? uh,
mm,
Somebody who has dived into their curiosity find their obsession, but most people don't even know what their obsession is. So it starts with curiosity, right? It
yeah.
starts with, okay, whenever I'm having a chat with somebody, especially any of my employees or my friends, um, what I'm always looking for is what are they speaking when their eyes light up, and can they keep talking about it forever? And their body language changes, their tone of voice changes, everything changes, and then
Mm,
they don't notice it, but over the years I have learned to kind of point on those curiosities that they have, and then actually tell it to them again. It's just as simple as that.
mm,
Like, do you know how passionate you are about this? Just tell it to them. Do you know
mm,
how excited you are
mm,
while talking? I'll give you an example from my
mm,
office. So I have one of my colleagues.
mm,
He's an extremely passionate
mm,
guy. He was a Zumba instructor for almost 10 years. Later on, he learned digital marketing and he joined my company. And he wanted to do performance marketing. I saw him, I talked with him, I used to have a lot of conversations with him. And whenever he used to
mm,
be in a good mood, he used to come up with dialogues from movies for situations. Like a real time situation is happening, and he could find a perfect dialogue from a movie and represent, like, explain what happened in the current moment using that dialogue or using that scene.
that's a skill, bro.
Dude,
That's
I'm
a
like, I'm
crazy
like, do
skill.
you understand you can be such an amazing meme maker? Like, do you have any idea?
Yeah.
And he was not ready to accept it. And it took almost a year for me to keep telling him that. And now, what I told him, that dude, you are responsible for the organic social media growth of Magic Leaf. And you have to start making
Mm,
memes. And you don't need any approval from me. Just post it. If anything
mm,
happens, I will say sorry, right? To the board and to my
mm,
co-founders
mm,
and anything. I'll take the responsibility. But what you have to do is start creating and start building. You won't believe
mm,
he
mm,
has, like, it's like a flower that blossoms, right? In the last one
mm,
month I have seen a very different side of him. And uh,
mm.
we also get a lot of video ads made from him, and his quality of ads, which he's not really passionate about, has also increased. I give you an
Mm,
example, right? If somebody is not able to build something in your company, get them to build something out of
mm,
your company which they are curious and passionate about. They will start becoming better builders inside your company. And that is what I
mm,
did. And that is the only way. So I tapped into his curiosity, I tapped into his obsession, and I
mm,
gave an outlet to that obsession. That's all. And all of a sudden he started doing that. Uh, but like
mm,
I can see him much more happier doing what he's doing, and what else do you want from
Mm.
the people you're working with, right? So yesterday I got a call from our head of
Mm.
digital, right? And he was
Mm.
just so excited to explain me the whole process of how they are coming up with video ideas and how they are making these videos. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I don't even need to tell you guys what you need to do. You are coming up with ideas, you are approving it, you are making it, you're publishing it, you're making money, right? So
Mm.
this is amazing. I mean, and uh, and I have done this with every single person in my company. Talk with them, try to
Mm.
understand their curiosity, and make like push them into that, right? Like literally push them. Sometimes you
Mm.
have to do it because they themselves don't believe in it. That's another problem.
Mm.
So
Mm.
like the idea of getting a
Yeah.
consumer into a creator is to give them the actions of a creator because what that's what they have been used to. Tell me the action I need to take, I'll take
Mm.
it. The problem is they are not given the
Mm.
actions of a creator, they are given the actions of a consumer, which is to buy and consume and consume and consume or repeat the
Mm.
same thing, stuff like that. So that is how I approach it
Yeah.
to get somebody to go from a consumer mindset to a creator mindset.
Yeah. Okay. So mine is basically like I feel that, even let it be my little sister or my teammate or something like that. I think I have it. I have that like motivational speaker in me somewhere that comes out, who I feel from an experience, not an experience point of view, from an exposure point of view, sometimes just try to, like tell them of the bigger goals that you need to achieve, that sort of thing. I don't take this, so I think I'm a very emotional talker in that sense, rather than like, sit back and observe and all those things. I
Hmm.
definitely do ask questions, and and by the time they answer, I'm able to figure out, okay, like, okay, this is maybe that sort of approach, that laid backness or something like that, so I constantly push for this conscious thinking, rather than life being just, like a dominoes. You have literally have to cut it out, so that people, what okay, where I've observed people not being able to do whatever they want to do is basically there's a pattern of, just not being conscious about their actions. Let it be a creator, consumer, whatever it is. And the moment you become conscious about whatever you're doing, you tend to be a creator. I
Yeah.
think that is the defining factor. So, so how do you become a consumer, and how do all these companies, including marketing agencies, everybody trap us into being a consumer? Is like constant piercing. As a marketer, I shouldn't say this, constant piercing into our psychology
Yeah.
of buying, that consumerism mentality. And
Yeah.
when you actually think about it, most of this shopping that you make is not conscious. You
Yeah.
see it somewhere, you buy it. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
Like
and as a market,
shifting from a consumer to creator
yeah,
is simply responding to the like shifting from responding to external call to actions to internal call to actions,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that is what I instigate in people. Let it be my teammates, let it be my. So even if you, so I'll give you a simple example of kids going to school. So in India, so my sister is like 10 years younger than me, and she's finished her 10th, and she's in 11th and 12th in that era basically. So this career stuff is like happening from everywhere, like from parents, from like her teachers, from. So I'll give you like a very simple example. What happens is that, people tend to lot of like ads that is shown to
Yeah.
a consumer. The kid is being told about, like, you buy this thing, you go to this university, you study this thing, and you get this thing, and like people say it again and again. It's like a conversion funnel,
Yeah.
and it's about like who shows the best ads. Like, you be a doctor, you be an engineer, that sort of thing. Then that is where I step in. Basically, I don't say do any of these things. I'm like, be conscious about what you want, like. And I think in a way I'm basically asking them to figure out their obsession or curiosity.
Yeah.
But like that is where the approach is very different. You have a systematic approach, I have an emotional approach.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then the
It
end
doesn't
goal, I
matter.
feel, is
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I tell my sister, like, okay, chuck all those things. And I think it's funny that, it's just like ads, like how brands show ads. Okay, do that, do this, do this. And you end up doing that because you're so
Yeah.
confused. You see you buy the wrong product at the end of the day. So it's being like conscious. Okay, this is what it is. Getting rid of all the distraction, blocking all the ads that you see on a phone, that sort of
You
thing.
know, it kind
So
of becomes easier to observe your actions when you go back to that core question. What am I really building? Right?
mm.
Do we even sit
But then the
and actually
problem
give it
is,
a thought?
okay, just from an example point of view, but as a kid or as a teenager, the same example we're talking about, like, do you think they will be capable of asking all these big questions and, like, what am I actually building?
I don't
Maybe,
think we
maybe,
even need
maybe.
to ask kids that question because by default, they are builders. If you look at a kid who is not conditioned, you will see they are always creating and
Yeah,
building something. A kid
exactly.
won't need any instruction. It is us adults who needs instruction to kind of get out of this consumer mindset and create, right? In fact,
But then the
about the
big problem, so the big problem right now is that, this digital era, the phones and laptops and everybody, kids are like directly being,
yeah,
turned into consumers,
that's the
consumers
problem.
of
Like you should
content,
not. I mean, I'm telling every
consumers of,
like when I see kids looking at their phones, and the kid is not eating, so the mom just gives the phone, and then they are feeding the kid, right? Because the kid is distracted with the phone.
yeah,
That's so
instigating
bad.
consumerism basically, yes.
That is so bad. I mean, you
Yeah.
should not give a kid a phone until they are probably more than 16 years old, 15, 16, beyond 15, 16 years old, right? I don't believe you should. I'm not sure what I would do with my kids. But I am seeing my niece who has not seen a phone. She's 8 years old. She's not allowed to see phones. She's not allowed to play with close-ended toys. Close-ended toys are basically toys like cars and stuff with which you cannot make anything. So we don't gift any such kind of toys to her. Only gets toys which are open-ended, like blocks and Jenga blocks, and
Mm.
everything that you
Mm.
can bring together and build. If you look at her today, right? She has so much energy to build things. You can give her
Mm.
sticks and stones and she'll still build something very interesting out of it, right? You can
Mm.
put her out anywhere in random location and she will still do something very interesting. I have seen that, and
Mm.
I have become a very strong believer that you should not give any kind of consumption oriented exposure to your kids. Any kind, like no screens,
Mm.
no toys which cannot be built into something, right? Stuff like that.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think that is very important. In fact, like the question I was coming to, right, which is what are you really trying to build? Why is it important? Why is it really important to think about it and then start making a decision that I'm going to build this? Is because I'll give you an example. When I got into Magic Leaf, right, we were building a
Mm.
food product. Now, before that, when I used to go
Mm.
to any of the retail shelves, I used to just look at designs and how people are marketing. That's all, right? I was not looking at
Mm.
anything else. But
Mm.
now I had made a decision to build this food brand. Now, whenever I go,
Mm.
my perspective of looking at the same packaging shifted. I looked at, oh, how are they doing the
Mm.
packaging? What is shown in the front of pack? What is shown in the back of pack? What is the positioning they have? Where have they placed it in the shelf? Right now, these questions started coming. Now, you don't really need to study what questions you need to ask. You need to decide what are you trying to build. That's all. When you decide what you're trying to build, your brain reorients itself and it looks at the same things from a very different lens, right? That is what starts
Mm.
happening. I'll give you another example. I went to a Subway and they had a with my friend, and they had an offer where just one, it was like 8 years ago something. So the Subway itself, the sandwich was about 90 rupees, and with Coke it was 125 rupees, and if you buy them separately it could cost 200 rupees or something like that. And my friend got excited. He's like, dude, let's, instead of just sandwich, let's take this plus Coke because it's so cheap. And I am like, dude, do you understand, if you don't even buy that and if you just buy the sandwich, you'll save even more money, but not buying the extra, let's say 45 rupees Coke. Like, yeah, I did not think of
No,
it,
I mean,
right? And it's like, dude,
fast
that's the
food
whole problem.
business.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the whole
No, I
problem
understand.
because
I mean,
we get hijacked by it. So, I mean, see, there is a solution to not get hijacked by such offers, is to become a creator so that now you reverse engineer those offers so that you can use it in your build thing that you're building instead of getting, kind of carried away with the offers that other people are creating. Like you become a student of how the world works and how human behavior
yeah.
works. So basically, when I'm saying systems and narratives, it is about being a student of how the world works, which is systems, and being the student of how human behavior works, which is the narratives, right?
Yeah.
These are the only two
Yeah.
things you need to understand to build and be a builder.
Okay, this is a consumerism. Okay, I wanna go somewhere now. So this is from a market consumerism standpoint. From a relationship standpoint, for example, like how do you think this affects
Yeah.
being conscious about systems and narratives and everything? Do you think that makes us inhuman? I mean,
No, not at all. In fact,
so
it will improve your
no.
relationships, dude. Like, if you are aware, okay, so if your girlfriend comes to you and tells you, go
Yeah,
take out the trash.
which I don't have. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Just announcing we have an eligible bachelor. So,
No, no, no. I'm not saying that. But then, like, so that, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So, so in that moment, let's talk about the narratives. You can have many narratives in your mind
Yeah,
to that. One narrative could be, oh,
yeah,
she must be tired.
yeah,
Let me help out. Or the other,
yeah.
oh, I'm so busy. Doesn't she understand?
She's
Why
lazy.
can't she help? She's
Yeah.
lazy,
Other
right?
one is she's lazy. Yeah,
Right. So if you are
yeah.
reactive, you are into a consumer mindset of building relationship, or like you're consuming the relationship, you're not building the relationship because you are reactive. But if you're responsive,
Mm,
you are building the relationship.
mm.
That's the difference. I look at it. That's how I look at it. Although I have been on both sides, like it's not like today I am like responsive everywhere. I do react. Like even today I
No,
do react, but I
I
have
think
to catch myself.
I think it's no. I think it's a mentality. That is where consciousness again needs to come in.
Yeah,
Like, okay, even take a 5 seconds breath. It's fine. I mean,
yeah.
it's not about taking the waste that I'm talking about. It's about anything.
Or
Like
you
a
can just tell
counter,
her, like you can
a reaction.
just tell her, babe, like just give me 10 minutes, I'll go. I'm just finishing my work and I'll go and drop it.
Mm,
But that won't happen most of the
mm.
times. Like people will react to it, right? They'll have some kind of a story or a narrative starting in their mind. Do they have a choice for
Yeah,
that?
I mean, so
Yes,
the
they do have a choice for the narrative they play. Everybody has that choice. Okay, that is the narrative
mm,
part. Let's talk about the system part. Okay, sometimes knowing that, uh, just let's say your gas is not, you have a gas which has four burners and two burners are not working, two burners are working, right? And
mm,
your job is still getting done and that's why you don't get it repaired and all. So that is
mm,
being passive about the systems around you, right? Not really. Or you don't have a health insurance. A health insurance is a system for your life, right? It's like part of building a
mm,
system for your life. You don't have your investments in mutual fund, for example, or you don't save money because you don't have a habit of saving. These are all systems for your life, right? Because money just comes and I just spend. That's being a consumer. But money
mm,
comes, the first
mm,
chunk I take out. Like I have a rule for the last 5 6 years that whatever money that comes into my account, I have a separate investment account in which I'll put 10% amount minimum. Okay,
mm,
I've increased that
mm,
to a huge extent, the percentage, but that has to go. And only then with the remaining
mm,
money I'll spend. I won't spend and then
mm,
save. I'll save and then spend. So, like a
mm,
consumer will do the opposite, right? They will first spend the money and then the rest with they will try
mm,
to save.
mm,
That's not how a creator does it,
mm,
right? So
mm,
these are all
mm.
things where in fact you are free to be more human because now you have systems where you don't have to have a lot of anxiety around things, right? Everything around you is working
Mm,
well.
mm.
You're doing your car servicing on time and stuff like that. So it's about having those systems and narratives, or having control over your systems and narratives, that makes you more human, is what I feel.
But doesn't living in a system like that makes it boring? Like this
Like,
uh,
wouldn't you need a health
conscious all
insurance?
the time. So I mean, I would. So I'm talking about not just the health insurance as an example. I'm talking about like this constantly. So sometimes don't you
No,
think you have
if
to
you're not
give
building
into
a
the
conscious system,
desires?
yeah, if you're not building a conscious system, you are still following some system. You are still a
Yeah.
creature of habit, right? You're still a creature of habit. It is
Mm,
just somebody else has decided that for
mm,
you. That's all. Maybe your parents
yeah.
decided that for you, and you stuck with it for your whole life.
Mm.
right?
No,
So
I get it. Mm.
I mean, it's not about boring, it's about do you want to live that life or not. If you are happy, then that's fine. But if you want to create something out of your life, you have
Mm.
to create the systems and narratives inside your life as well. So that's
Yeah, that
that's how
makes
I look at
sense.
it.
That makes sense. That's fine. So because uh, so that is where, so I believe that I am building a system or narrative or whatever in my life consciously, and sometimes you just let go for the desire. You're either lazy or like, oh, let's skip the gym today, or like let's go out, let's go clubbing, that sort of thing, and you feel like, okay, oh my god, so I have just exited the system that I had created for myself, and you feel like really uncomfortable after doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's so that sort of works. But then somebody was telling me, like, why do you have to restrain yourself into, don't you be more open when you are living outside the system, as in like the system that you had created for yourself, like, won't you be like, uh
Hey, just
the
just
chances
one
and the
question.
opportunities and everything of getting new
Is my frame
you're stuck.
frozen or something?
Yes, you're stuck.
Just give me a second. Let me check what's happening. I guess my camera's battery is dead, so I'll have to switch my camera to my webcam, and it's not allowing. Let me check if I can pause it. I can't pause it. All right, we'll just continue like this.
No, there's something called, but you can't switch cameras. Do you want to restart this thing?
We'll have to combine it later. Shall we do that?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll do that.
Let's do that. No,
Yeah.
no. I was basically asking, so when you're living outside the system that you've created for yourself, the
Mm-hmm.
system is basically very much linked with discipline, also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, but also.
Yeah.
But how do you make sure that you're still open to new experiences and new
So honestly, I'm not a
connections?
very
And
disciplined person.
see, no, I get that thing. So me neither. But what I'm saying is that, do you have to make sure even that falls, the socialization bit or the networking bit or like trying out new things, even that comes within the system that you're building, or is it something that happens outside the system?
For me, it does happen out of the system, right? Outside.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think it's also important that you take a break from whatever you're doing, so that whatever the conscious thing that you're doing, that it enables you to.
See, I'll tell you by definition, a system is something where you build it once, then you don't need to consciously pay attention to it.
Hmm.
That's how I look at a system, right? For example, having a habit of brushing twice. Once you build a system around it, you don't need to be conscious about it, right? um, Having lunch and dinner on time, which is something I'm trying this from this beginning of this year, and I've been happy about sticking to it. But again, that is a habit, right? Once I have this habit for a week or so, I got used to it. I got hungry
Hmm.
exactly at the time I was supposed to have lunch and dinner.
But it's also related to the maintenance of the system. I feel like, I mean, it's a different game. I mean,
Yeah.
so some things that you've built and some things you have to continuously maintain, like a fitness routine. I mean, your body craves for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you actually want to go back, go running, go exercising, going to the gym or whatever it is.
Yeah. So yeah,
But
you do
then,
like, but isn't that a choice, right? So you're choosing to
yeah. So I
maintain
think,
that
no, I
discipline,
get
right?
that.
And let's say you're
Mm,
a kind of person who always likes to have burgers, and you have bhujia
mm,
during your chai, and people have a habit
mm,
of it, and they are maintaining that system of
mm,
eating bhujia and
mm,
eating burgers, right? All the
mm,
time eating
mm,
pizza and having um, drink cafe, like what do you the soda drinks, cokes and pepsis. Like people do have a habit. Like I know somebody who has a habit of having Red Bulls, like constantly,
mm.
all throughout the day. They are maintaining a habit, they are maintaining a system for themselves. The only thing is, all the consumer based systems that you are following don't need conscious effort because they hijack your system and they create those dopamine feedback loops and stuff like that. And all the conscious systems, the creator based systems that you are trying to build, have a longer reward duration, so they don't have that kind of a feedback loop. So there you might have to do some kind of habit building, is what I feel. So yeah, but you're maintaining a
No, I
system
get it.
either ways, right? It's not that you're maintaining only
Yeah,
the creator system.
yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much it, right? We have covered a quite
Yeah, so I think the theme of
good
this
amount of
pod
time.
was, uh, first starting with the question, what am I really building? Because that's the core of everything.
Yeah,
Once you
from
start there,
from like even the minuscule experiences and the moments of life, not on
yeah.
a grand scale, obviously, but also on a grand scale, but also starting from the small elements of building blocks of like regular life. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, let's say, like, uh, if you both of us are going to have this, are having this conversation on the pod, right? We have a common idea that we are building a podcast called as Build with Buddies, right? That is a common understanding we have, and that has led to this entire experience that we have had. Similarly, like, I have had situations where I needed to do difficult conversations with people. Now you can get into the difficult conversation keeping in mind these are the things I'm going to say. And that is how most people enter into a conversation, by deciding I'm going to, you know, present these points to this person and then see how they react. Now that is a consumer way of dealing with relationships. A creative way is, okay, what do I want to build with this person? What kind of relationship do I want to build with this person? And not really think about what am I going to say, because when you actually enter the conversation and that with that person in that situation or a context, by keeping in mind what are you trying to build, uh, the right words start coming out of your mouth. And that is what I have experienced firsthand for myself.
I
I
think
have
I'm
also
somebody
been,
who does that, but it happened to me subconsciously.
yeah,
Well, I've never thought about this like consciously did that thing, but then I think it's an impact of that conscious building mentality that I have. I feel like
exactly.
it comes to me naturally. I think I used to think that it's just my people skills, but I don't think it does. I think somewhere it is working for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's how a builder thinks. Like I said, if you're a builder in one, if you start being a builder in one area of life, you start being a builder in all areas of your life. So it becomes a way of life.
Yeah,
So the question about maintaining it or making life boring, I think it's the opposite. Life becomes so much interesting because you have so much more control over everything, right? People can't just manipulate you for the sake of it, just because they know a few
yeah,
psychological tactics, right? It's impossible to do that. So
I get that,
that is what I feel
100%.
about being a builder. This year is about building.
Yeah, and yes, and I have so many things that I want to talk more about this where because like the patience and like the struggles of constantly doing something, it's
Yeah,
we just spoke about the good sides of building, but I think there are so many other things that is related to it. Like even when you
yeah,
say that, like building is exciting, interesting and all, you need to wait a lot. And I think you remember the Siddhartha to fast, to wait, and to think. These are the three things that I sort of connected with building, and that is somehow coming back to my head. So maybe that is something we could literally explore in the
yeah.
coming pod.
I think we
Maybe
should actually we
in the
should
works.
explore the whole Siddharth philosophy and the article that you wrote on building, right? That's a very interesting one,
Yeah,
especially the I think the differentiation you created between building and cultivating, I guess. I like that, was a really catchy
yeah,
thing for me. So we should definitely explore it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that'll help us like sort of like maybe not just Siddhartha, like maybe there are so many other books that you can connect with the concept of
Yeah.
building. So that is something that we can like further explore and uh, we can also bring like people, the actual builders, the co-builders that we have. Like that is the whole idea of building with buddies. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
we need to have that sort of community coming in and make sure
Yeah.
that something, this build with buddies thing is beyond us and it reaches millions of people, and people are impacted and people are helped and people are inspired and people can add value to each other. And if we can like materialize into a big physical event or like a physical podcast or like a physical community where a lot of people can, like builders can come in
Yeah.
like as buddies, I think that is where we need
Dude,
to go.
that would
I
be so
think
powerful. Yeah.
that's gonna be ecstasy, baby. That's gonna
Yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
That's what we gotta do.
Let's,
That's what we gotta go. So this is
yeah.
just like a baby step,
Yeah. I mean,
inshallah.
I have
So
always
like,
dreamed of building a community of builders, something like
hmm,
Wakanda for builders. That is the kind of vision I have,
hmm.
you know?
Something that is not there. Something. So I personally feel so many of these building communities is sort of boring because
Yeah.
they have a
So it's
pattern.
very
Not a
limited to
building.
only
I don't want to
entrepreneurship.
call it. I don't want to. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to
Yeah.
call it a building community, but it's not a building community. It's basically using each other's value community.
Hmm.
Like it's basically a networking community. It's not a building community. So you need
Mm-hmm.
something. Do I have it? I give it to you. That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
But the common
Obviously, there are
purpose that
collaborations
everybody is
happening.
connected
People.
with, I think, the common purpose that all of us are connected with is all of us are trying to build something. And then we are helping each other build
Mm,
whatever we are trying to build, right? So, because
exactly.
see, I can ask you help for getting the discount coupons for Amazon as well, but that's not the place. This is not the place for it, right? We are talking about building things.
Yeah.
So, networking can be
Yeah.
anything, but what kind of networking,
Yeah.
right? That's
Exactly.
more important. And
Exactly.
also the idea that building is only about entrepreneurship is too narrow, because me being a designer, a filmmaker, a cinematographer, an editor, an
Same.
entrepreneur, a
Same.
marketer, right?
Same. Same.
For me, the definition of building is extremely broad. So I
If you
think,
are a multidisciplinary guy, like if you're creative, and I think like entrepreneurs are creative at the core, whatever it
yeah,
is. But then like if you're like explicitly creative according to the societal terms, like if you're a poet or if you're a filmmaker, as like we both are, uh, so it's very hard because first of all you don't want to define yourself, and this concept of building as it is, no, I mean it's so bad to define yourself. If
yeah.
somebody, I hate somebody calling me that you're that.
In fact, we
I'm
can
like,
do a whole
no,
pod on this whole idea of defining yourself versus not defining yourself. And I have a very clear framework. I have shifted
exactly,
from that mentality to a very different one. So I would love to talk about that. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And if we can bring people in, somewhere talking about this thing, that's also be great. So, I think we've done a good job for the first episode,
Yeah.
and
So
let's
let's
let's let's give
cool. So
one.
if you're listening to this and you have reached this far, do subscribe to the pod on whatever platform you're looking at, like YouTube, Google Podcast, Spotify. It's available on all the major podcast networks and YouTube. And probably we might upload
Yeah,
it on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Who knows? And Instagram.
hundred
Yeah.
percent,
Cool.
100%. Slowly, we're gonna reach everywhere.
Yeah.
So that
All
is
right.
good. Prathamesh and all the listeners who have reached here, thank you very much. Uh, and obviously, like, it's always enlightening to talk to you because I feel
Same here,
like,
man. Same here.
we sort of like bring in value to each other in a very different standpoints, but on a lot of similar issues. And I
Yeah.
think we're gonna do like great with this build with what these concepts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye.